everyone, welcome to Keep Turning Pages. I'm Margot. This is
Jeannette.
And today we're doing our March reading wrap-up for you. Hey everyone, this is our March reading wrap-up, and I'm going to do mine in order from least to best. I actually ended up having 5-star reads this month, which was amazing. Now, I did participate in middle grade March, and so I think every one of my books that I read this month were middle grade books. So I'm just going to jump right into it. The first one that I read was The Dragoian Queen and the Journey Home by Grace Goltz. Sorry, I said that wrong. Goltz. I actually ended up DNFing this one. You can see where my bookmark is. I got, a little ways through it. It's a really good story. Her character development is good, and her storyline is good, but her writing style I just could not get into. It's kind of choppy, really repetitive in places, and so I just couldn't stick with it. So I did end up DNFing this one, but overall, I think she's got a good thing going. It just wasn't for me with the writing style. Then my next book that I read was kind of a nostalgic book. I had read it when I was a child, so I wanted to read it and see if it was something that I would pass on to my daughter. So it is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume, and I absolutely will not pass this on to my daughter. It does deal with things that I feel like this age group deals with. Just, feeling not part of the group, or, just all their emotions they're going through while they're going through all the changes of life, preteen, teenage stuff. But they do focus a lot on boys. There's just a lot of things mentioned in here that I don't deem appropriate. They talk about just many things. I don't even want to say it because my daughter's in the room with me, and I don't know if you have kids watching. But I only gave this like 1 star, 1.5 maybe, because it does deal with issues that they're going through, and I feel like it kind of deals with that good. But it deals with it in a very worldly way. And so that was just a no for me. Then the next book that I read, I don't have a copy of because it was an ebook. And I'm sure many of you have read it. It's The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. It was the first time that I'd read any of his books. It was recommended. Somebody said, give it a try. You might like it. And I did. Like I had said in one of my previous videos, I'm not a huge fantasy fan. So, but I'm getting there. I've read some that I have really enjoyed. And actually my top pick for the month is a fantasy. So that was nice. I did enjoy it. I really liked the character. The main character is Bilbo Baggins, and he's the Hobbit. And I really liked him. He just, I don't know. He's kind of a complainer. He got pulled into the whole adventure with the dwarves and everything without really volunteering. As a matter of fact, he said that he absolutely did not want to be part of the adventure, that he wanted to just stay home. And I was going to read you a quote, but I did not think to bring another device in here, and I'm recording with my phone, so my quote's on my phone. Can't read it to you. Sorry about that. But anyway, it was really a good book, and I am planning to go on and read The Lord of the Rings next. Then the next book that I read was Survivors. Survivors in the Empty City. This is a trilogy. This is one that had been sitting on our bookshelf for years. I don't remember where I got it, why I got it. I don't know if it came from like a book sale somewhere. I really don't know. But I thought, well, it's middle grade March. I'm trying to get through my bookshelf, so I'll give it a read. It was good. I personally will not continue the series. I'm just not invested. I don't really care what happens to the dogs after this. So
fast.
I know, but it's true. So it is written from the animal's perspective. And one of the things that I wanted to mention is that they do have like their own gods. So it's not really a spiritual book, but they do have like the sun dog and the earth dog and different things like that. So it really made me think of like Native Americans and their beliefs with their different nature type gods. And it made me think of that. And there is one part in the book where they talk about burying food or something for the earth dog, as if it's a sacrifice, and once they do that, they'll be blessed by the earth dog in their endeavors. So I just want to mention that it does have that like spiritual aspect in it, just, you know, for anybody that doesn't want to, you know, read that kind of stuff. But overall, it was a good story. Like I said, I won't continue the series, just not invested, but not bad. And I ended up giving this one 3 stars because it was a good story, just not something I'm interested in continuing. So next, Confessions of a Proverbs 32 Woman. This was an audiobook, so it's a very good book. It's kind of a autobiographical book written by Carrie Pomeroli. I think I'm saying that right. It was really, really good. Really good. She starts off by saying, you know, if you're type A, if you are a Proverbs 31 woman, you might not want to read this book because I am a hot mess for Jesus. And she says hashtag hot mess for Jesus. And the whole book is just her telling, you know, how she loves the Lord, but she's not the perfect Christian woman. And I could just really connect with that storyline. It made me laugh. It made me tell stories with my friends and stuff. Again, I had something I was going to read to you, but it's on my phone. I apologize for that. Next month, I will do better about printing that out or having a different format so I can read that to you. So the next book that Jeannette and I both read is Pax. And I thought this was a really good book. It is told from 2 points of view. It's told from the little boy's point of view, Peter, and from Pax's point of view, which is the fox. Pax was Peter's pet, and at the beginning of the story, Peter has to let Pax go. And the rest of the story is kind of about how Peter feels bad that he let Pax go. His dad kind of made him do it, and so he's trying to get back to Pax. And then it tells Pax's story of he's in the woods, he doesn't really understand what happened, where's his boy, and how he lives throughout that time in the woods. Again, I thought this was a really good book. There are a couple scenes that in it that could scare some younger ones, or that you may not want some to read. It does talk about the death of some foxes, and it gets pretty graphic in how the foxes are killed in one scene. So then there is a scene where the boy, obviously he runs away to try to go find Pax. So there's also the fact that the little boy runs away in the book. But there's a funny scene where he comes across this lady and he needs help, and so the lady's helping him, but she does make him contact his family and let them know that he's okay and everything. But she's helping him, and she tells him truth is the rule at her house. He has to always tell the truth. He cannot tell a lie. And so one of my favorite quotes is on page 73. And I just found this hilarious because truth is also one of the rules in our house, and I could totally see myself doing this. So he comes in, she comes in, and she asks the boy what he's been doing. He said he's just out hiking. And says she clapped her hands to her ears and frowned. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. My lie detector was going off. Try again. Are you running away from home? So obviously this is right after they first met. She's trying to figure out why he's there. But I just loved that line. Like, you know, nope, my lie detector's going off. Try that again because I know better. And then on page 129, there's another quote. And I just, the lady's name is Vola. And she had been in a war. And she lost her leg in the war. And so later in the book, after her and Peter get to know each other, she opens up a little bit about her time in the war and how she lost her leg. And this was just a really poignant scene for me, and I thought it was really good and probably describes how a lot of veterans that have come home from the war might feel. It says, I remembered that so clearly. I could smell that memory, I could hear it, and I could taste it. But I couldn't figure out how that girl could be the same person who had put on a uniform, picked up a gun, and done the things I did in the war. So I reached up and I picked one of those peaches, and I laid myself down on the grass and bit into it. And there I was. I found another little true piece of my old self. So she's just talking about how she came to her, came to the peaches, and she knew that that was an important memory, and she could smell it and she could taste it, but she couldn't really feel that memory anymore. Like, she felt so disconnected from who she was before the war to after the war. And that was just a very poignant scene for me. So this one I gave 4 stars. There is another book in the series which I will read. So I'm excited to move on with that. Now, Jeannette also read this book, and so she's going to give her opinion of it.
So I really like this book. I actually haven't finished it. I'm close to the ending. Sort of. I really enjoyed this book. I love foxes, so this was definitely a good book. I don't know.
Will you read the next one?
Probably yes. It's just like, I could imagine having like a pet fox and there's a war coming and you just gotta let that pet go, and it's heartbreaking. There was a scene. Peter went to his grandfather's house before he decided that he was going to try and find his fox. And I really like this one specific part in it. Can I have it? His dad had tossed the soldier hat. Sure. Peter had set it up on the windowsill beside his bed, pointing the little plastic rifle out in a satisfying show of defense. But within the hour, Pax had swiped it, which made Peter laugh. Just like him, Pax had to have it. Peter dropped the toy back into the tin and was about to snap the lid back on when he noticed the edge of a yellow photo sticking up from the mound of soldiers. He tugged it free. His dad, at maybe 10 or 11, with one arm draped around a dog, looked like part collie, part 100 other things. Looked like a dog a good dog, the kind you would tell your own son about. Yeah, I really like the part because that little soldier that Pax had snapped was Pax's favorite toy, and I thought that was cute.
And he keeps that toy throughout the adventure in the woods. And also, a reason that scene is significant is because the dad seemed a little heartless about the boy and his pet fox, as if he just wasn't an animal person. So when the boy found out that Dad had a pet dog that he was close to, it surprised him. So, anything else?
There was another tag I have more than everything I need, Lola said. I have peace here. Because it's so quiet? No, because I'm exactly where I should be, doing exactly what I should be doing. That is peace. I thought that was a good, quote, I guess. I liked that one.
Yeah.
So.
It was a really, really good book. So we will definitely move on. This is a library book, but I think we may need to add it to our collection so that we can pass it down to the grandkids and stuff like that. But it was a really cute book. So the next book, and I don't know if I said, I gave that one a 4-star rating too. So the next book, and this is my first 5-star book of the month, is When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit by Judith Kerr. And there are 3 in this series. I do plan to read all 3 of them. But Judith grew up in the time of Hitler, and so these are based on her experiences. They are fiction. They're not autobiographies or anything like that, but they are based on her experiences during that time of when Hitler came into reign, and her family fled from Berlin. And in the story, Anna's family flees from Berlin, and the story is told from Anna's perspective. I think she's in about 3rd grade. I think this would be a great read aloud for families, so you could kind of skip over anything that you thought was too sensitive for your kids, but it would open great discussions about this time in history without it getting too tangled up in stuff you don't really want to explain to young children. It does mention suicide. The grandmother's dog dies, and a little girl says something, or one of the ladies says something about she wonders if it committed suicide, that dogs do that sometimes. But then later in the book, there is a person that does commit suicide, and it doesn't say that he did that specifically. It just says that there was a note and a pill bottle beside him. So I do want that warning in there, that is in there. It does mention concentration camps, but it only mentions it as, I think they call it a prison where people who disagree with Hitler go to stay. That's all it says about it. It doesn't tell about life in a concentration camp or anything like that. They were learning about it in history, and that was the definition given. The little bit of romance that's in it is, there's one day when Anna and her friends are walking home from school, and the boys from the school are throwing rocks at them. And Anna goes home and tells her mom that the boys were throwing rocks at her. So mom goes out to find out, why are you throwing rocks at my daughter? And they say, because we love her. So that was funny to me. Kind of reminded me of like Little House on the Prairie when they pulled the girl's hair and pigtails and stuff like that. So they didn't throw rocks anymore after that. And then evolution is kind of brought into it because they mention, again, learning at school. They learn about cavemen that lived millions and millions of years ago. So other than that, there's really not anything that, any warnings that I saw. As far as religion, there is one place where religion is brought up. It's on page 8, so it's right at the very beginning. And Anna and her friend are walking home from school, and her friend is asking about like why she doesn't go to church, or why she doesn't go to the special church that another of their friends go to. And Anna replies, that's because we're not religious. We don't go to church at all. I wish my father wasn't religious, said Elsbeth. We have to go every Sunday, and I get cramped in my seat. She looked at Anna curiously. I thought Jews were supposed to have bent noses, but your nose is quite ordinary. Has your brother got a bent nose? So I thought that was kind of funny. They're curious about religion, but then just some of the stereotypes that we get into with different religions and different people and stuff. I had never heard that, but I thought it was hilarious. I thought Jewish people had bent noses, but your nose isn't bent. And they just kind of laugh it off and go on and nothing else. And then, one other warning, children in the book, children are allowed to drink wine. It is in minimal portions, and sometimes it's watered down. I get the feeling that that's just part of their way of life. It's not like they're not getting drunk and stuff like that. The parents don't get drunk. I feel like they just drink wine as part of their culture or something. But it is mentioned that children are drinking wine. So I wanted to put that. And then at the end, so during the book, Anna and her family have to leave Berlin, and then they leave where they go from Berlin and go to another place, and then at the end of the book, they're getting ready to go somewhere else. The mom and dad are talking about Anna and her brother maybe having to go stay with a relative while her mom and dad go ahead of them to set up housing in the new place they're going. And Anna does not want to be separated. They'd already been separated once before. She does not want to be separated. And her mom says, but Anna, lots of children leave their parents for a while. Lots of English children go to boarding schools. I know, said Anna, but it's different if you haven't got a home. If you haven't got a home, you've got to be with your people. She looked at her parents' stricken faces and burst out, I know we have no choice, and I'm only making it more difficult, but I've never minded being a refugee before. In fact, I've loved it. I think the last 2 years when we've been refugees have been much better than if we'd stayed in Germany. But if you send us away now, I'm so terribly frightened. I'm so terribly frightened. Of what? Said Papa. That I might really feel like one, said Anna, and then she burst into tears. So she's been fine being a refugee and having to move around a lot until it looks like she may have to be away from her family for a long time. And I just really like that, and I like that the dynamic of the family is one where she can share her feelings with her family. And then the last quote that I'm going to read, this just really made me, again, this is Anna explaining how she feels about something. And so they're getting ready to move, and the last time, and she's kind of sad about moving, and her dad says, we'll come back. I know, said Anna. She remembered how she had felt when they had gone back to Gasthof for the holidays, and added, but it won't be the same. We won't belong. Do you think we'll ever really belong anywhere? I suppose not, said Papa. Not the way people belong who have lived in one place all their lives, but we'll belong a little in lots of places, and I think that may be just as good. And I really like that. It made me think of how like evangelists and missionaries and other refugees and stuff might feel. So obviously this was a 5-star read. I am going to continue it. I will let Jeannette read it if she's interested in it. But I really do think this would be a really, really, really good read aloud book. So this is my other 5-star read. It's the Mona Lisa Vanishes. This was the group read for middle grade March. And when I first started it, I didn't really like it. Matter of fact, I almost DNF'd it. I was just really confused because I picked it up thinking it was a fictional book. And it is not a fictional book. It is a non-fictional book. But it is written in a story format. So I had gotten frustrated with it, and I thought, what is this even supposed to be about? So I picked up the sleeve to look at it, because when I read, I always take my sleeves off, and I know that contradicting why the sleeve is there, but it slides around and aggravates me, so I always take it off. So I picked up the sleeve, I read what it was about, and I'm like, oh, light bulb moment, nonfiction book. So that made me look at it completely different. I went back a few pages, started reading again, and I ended up really, really enjoying this book. It is written in story format, so I feel like it would be easy for a middle grade student to follow along with. It kind of goes off on some different rabbit trails. They're very interesting, but because it's not just dry historical facts, I really did enjoy it. It follows Leonardo da Vinci. So Leonardo da Vinci painted the Picasso. I think Leonardo painted the Mona Lisa. So hey, anyway, so Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa, and I don't think he ever finished it. I think it's one of the ones that of his paintings that he came the closest to finishing. I did not realize that he was so scattered, but from reading the book, I think he may have had ADHD, because he starts stuff and gets bored with it and goes on to other stuff. He keeps very detailed journals, which just show how amazingly intelligent he was, especially for his time. So it's really, really interesting. But he paints the Mona Lisa, which is a painting that should have never even come about, because back then you only painted people that were upper crust people, and the Lisa that sat for the Mona Lisa was not an upper crust person. So it's really interesting how it all came about, and it only became famous because it got stolen. And so the book tells the story about how it got stolen and the adventures that it took to find it and whatnot. So it is a very, very good book. I will say I do have a few warnings. It's all about theft and the different things that they do. One of Da Vinci's favorite pastimes was dissecting corpses to learn about the inner workings of our bodies. So that's in there. That was a little strange. It could be scary for, some children. I mean, this is middle grade, so you just have to see what you're comfortable with your family. But he kept detailed record of the different inner workings of our bodies and stuff. So that was really interesting to see that he had all these different side hustles. It also does talk about somebody being hung, so just be aware of that. But overall, this was a really, really good book. I look forward to more history type books from this author. It's written by Nicholas Day. And then one thing that I wanted to point out, which is going to make Jeannette laugh, because like I said, I take my covers off of my books, and the cover of this is fine. It's, I probably wouldn't buy the book because of the cover, but it is a gorgeous book. I love the colors. I love the light blue against the orange, but it's embossed. It's got like an embossed frame on it, and I just thought it was a gorgeous. book. It's very simple, very plain, but I thought it was so pretty. And I said something about it, and she started laughing and making fun of me. But it's a very pretty book.
You're supposed to put the covers on the book.
I will, after I put it back on the shelf. So my very last one, and my favorite of the month, maybe my favorite of the year so far, is Zao's Tales by J.A. Sumner. And you read this one too, didn't you?
I read that one last month. I read this last month.
Okay.
In February.
So I thought it is a fantasy. It's really, really good. It is the story of three girls and their mother who start out reading a book, and they get a phone call from their dad, a Skype call from their dad, and they go into the room to listen to the call, and one of the things in the book comes out of the book. So the rest of the book is about their adventures trying to figure out how to get this back in the book. So it's kind of like a Jumanji type feel to it. But I really liked this book. It had a lot of adventure. The relationship between the daughters and their mom is excellent. They get along great. They talk. They hang out together. They have fun together. The relationship between the sisters is positive. There's teasing and stuff, but there's not any hatred or anything like that. It's just a really positive family book, and it is full of just different quotes and different things that I really like. It is written by a Christian author. God's not really brought into it a lot. There is, let's see, I think one spot is my blue tab here that God is mentioned, says, I have heard a missionary use this word many years ago in my village. He said it is a thing of the Creator God. And they're talking about the word a miracle. So that's basically the only mention of God in the book. You can see I tabbed this one all up. There's yellow tabs for great lessons, pink for great quotes, green for great descriptions. His way of using words is just awesome. I'm just going to read, I'll read one of the descriptions. She stretched and yawned, blinked. Then she saw Ella sitting over the small cast iron skillet. Her sister was the one doing the cooking. All her fancies dissolved like the night sky does before the warm light of the rising sun. And that was a really, really good. I said one, but I'm going to read one more because this one was really good too. This is when the first thing comes out of the book. and her name is Athena. It's a lady that comes out of the book. It says, there, staring up from the newly turned page, was the painting of Athena. Almost imperceptibly at first, the black ink used to paint her dress seemed to rise. It gathered and arced like a small soap bubble on the surface of a pan of water. Then, when it was no more than half the size of a bouncy ball, it burst, sending an inky mist into the air. The mist began to condense. It rolled and grew like a summer storm, boiling into a miniature charcoal black thunder cloud. Within seconds, the mist spread and formed an almost 6-foot tall human figure. Then, she was simply there. So, I just really like the way that he uses his descriptions, and just really makes you feel like you're there. You can picture it, you can see it. And then there's lots of great little lessons. So one of the lessons is Lily is told she has a job to do, and she's trying to figure out exactly what she should do or how she should do it. She says, then she remembered something. Well, Dad always says you can't know the way to get where you're going until you know the place you're starting from. So I guess I need to figure out where I'm at. So I thought that was really good. And then another one towards the end. This is another one from her dad. Suddenly the words of her father came rushing back to her. It was almost like she could hear him speaking them again, though he had been dead for many years. Little one, remember, emotions are good servants, but bad masters. Even a fairy must do her duty. Now this is McKay. This is a different character. So it's not the main dad in the story that's dead. But anyway, I thought that was really good. Emotions are good servants, but bad masters. So I just really, really thought that was good. And then at the very beginning in the introduction, it says, a wise woman once said, read living books. Normal books are fine. Those everyday stories found in the book section of a superstore. The kinds of tales that a person reads to put themselves to sleep or pass the time on a rainy day. But those are not living books. Living books are just that, alive. In these books, jacks kill giants, lions talk to the sons of Adam, and daughters of Eve, and houses can fall on wicked witches. This tale is about just such a book that was so real it was. Anyway, this absolutely was my favorite book of the year so far. I do highly recommend it. He does have another book that is supposed to be, I think it's supposed to be the book that the family is reading. So we're going to get that one too. But that is it for me. This was a 5-star read. And then I think Jeannette has 2 books that she read that she's going to tell y'all about.
So, the first book that I read was The Green Ember. I really liked this book. This was a really good book. It had a lot of adventure and a lot of suspense, a lot of questions. I really like this book.
It is a fantasy.
It's a fantasy, and it's about rabbits. The main characters, I think there's 2, is Heather, which is the older sister, and Piggott, which is the younger brother. Their worst enemies are these wolves. Tear their house down, I guess. So they finally find a relative that they didn't know existed and trusted them, which I thought was kind of weird because, like, oh, I don't know you, but yeah, I'll go with you. So he was not a bad guy though. He was good. He was nice. And it is about the Green Ember, which you find out later, like really late in the story, what the Green Ember is. Lots of people, there was a lot of questions in this book. Like, lots of people would say, till the Green Ember rises. And, of course, I didn't know what that meant. The reader didn't know what that meant.
Don't give it away.
But, I'm not.
Okay. Well, I want to read it, so don't give it away.
So, yeah, I really like this book, though. There is this one spot, this descriptive spot that I really liked. It was Heather. She was going to this place. I forgot what they called it, but yes, here's what it says. The spectacular rainstorm of the day before made everything greener and brighter. Never mind the broken limbs and downed trees. It was a perfect spring day, breezy and bright. The air was warm around them, and above them lay a deep blue blanket of sky. The sunlight sparkled through the wind-bent froths of trees, dancing in an ever-shifting pattern of shadows along the path. So, I thought that was really cool. I like how he explained the sky, a deep blue blanket of sky. I thought that was mostly the reason why I wanted to read this. I didn't really care about the other parts. But, yeah, so this was definitely, I'd say a 4.5. I really like this book. There are some spots that are a little choppy, some spots that are questionable, they're not bad, they're just, you don't really know what's going on, and they don't give a good explanation. So then the next book, sorry, how dare you? The next book that I have to read is The Black Star of Kingston, which is like, it's not the second book of the Green Ember series, but it's like it's a book that goes along with it. It's like the history behind the Green Ember books. So I really like this book. It was a very interesting story. I can't remember how it ends. But I did really like this book. There was this one part where a character comes into the story that I really liked. I suppose a short break, Flick said, which Flick is the main character in the story. Nodding to Barnley, who sat heavily on deck. Is you a lefty, Captain? The doctor asked. He dug in the pocket of his bright striped pants, which gathered at the knees. He fished out a pipe with his right hand. That's weird. With his right hand and pointed its dim at his left. Like most sailors on dockers, he wore no shirt. He had an odd tangled rag wrapped around his head, with a hole for only one of his ears to stick out. This ear was bent halfway up so that it hung down and wobbled like a broken mast. I do favor my left, Flick said, smiling, but I'm able to use both. Folks say not to trust a lefty. I'm gonna end it right there. I don't know. I really liked when the docker came in. I thought he was a very funny character. He had this pipe, one of the
smoke pipes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he would dig it out of his pocket and put it back in without realizing, which I thought was
dangerous.
I thought it was funny because, let me see, he reached into his front pants pocket and once again fished out his pipe. Did you know the king is left-handed? Flick.
Mm-hmm.
Flick? Oh, I've been saying it Flick. Okay, whatever. Notice the docker had a very, very few teeth, but he chomped his unlit pipe with vigor, taking it out to speak.
I guess it's not dangerous because it wasn't lit, so yeah. That makes it a little bit better, but still yuck.
But down here, he says he replaced his pipe again, squinting one eye at Flick and cocking his head even more sharply. Mm. So he would just take it out. Toy. Yeah, he's teething. So I don't know. That was definitely one of my favorite parts of this book. I really like this book.
Are you going to continue the series?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to continue both of these series.
Well, it's one series. We got this book at a homeschool convention that I was working at, and it was pretty neat because I bought this as a gift for her. Were you at that one with me? Mm-hmm. So we were able to, that's right, because we got a poster and stuff too. Mm-hmm. We were able to meet the author, and he actually signed it for her. So that was really neat.
I think we got this when I was 6.
Yeah, we were going to read it as a family read aloud. A friend of mine has suggested they had done it as read aloud, and we were doing other read alouds, and we just never got around to it. So, but she has read it now. But that's it. I know this was kind of a long video for our first review video, and I apologize.
One thing that I didn't like about this though is there are 24. There are 44 chapters, which is a lot of chapters, and they did name the chapters, so like
365 pages. That was a pretty big book for her.
Yeah. So at chapter 42 it says the end, and then on chapter 33 it's after the end. So.
Oh, chapter 33 is after the end, or chapter 43?
Oh yeah, chapter 43 is after the end,
okay.
And then chapter 44 is the beginning, but it's still the same.
That does get a little confusing.
Yeah. It's like, when does this book end?
Yes. But it is 365 pages. She did excellent reading it, and we do recommend it. So what was your favorite book of the month?
I think my favorite of this month would be The Black Star of Kingston. I think that is what I have decided.
Okay, so my favorite was Zayo's Tales, and her favorite was The Black Star of Kingston. And that's all that we have for you today. Sorry that this was kind of long. We read a lot of books in the month of March. But hopefully you got to know us a little bit better with our back and forth and our craziness. And we will see you again next week. Thanks for watching. And remember, keep turning pages.